Hi and welcome to the channel. Now this is a follow-up video, just about managed to squeeze it in before Christmas, of the high-end receivers now that I did a review a little while ago, just a few days ago I think, about budget receivers and budget amplifiers in a magazine here in the UK called HiFi Choice, and by one particular bloke that's kind of caught my imagination was Angus McKenzie. Been reading up a lot about him, to be honest with you. And well worth typing into Google to see what this bloke was all about and what he did back then. It was very highly regarded worldwide in his opinions on audiophile, hi-fi, all that kind of stuff. And from what I'm reading, he pretty much got Hi-Fi Choice up and running. It was him that actually got it all going, kind of thing. And he did a review of receivers, and that video got quite a few reviews. Like I say, I've had a couple of comments. I think one comment on actually, and a couple of emails asking for a follow-up. Would I do the higher end receivers, just a matter of interest of what he kind of thought of them. And this is what I've done in this video here. We've got 19 receivers I think in total. 2 I brought from the 1976 magazine because they wasn't included in the super test, shall we say. They're 2 Marantzes. You'll see them as they go along. And I've given a brief description of what he said and also a summary of what he said as the video goes along. I'm going to leave the little chart at the end with some measurements and bits and pieces on it at the very end of the video, but you may want to zoom in or something. If you've got a phone you may find it a bit awkward, so if you're interested in a particular receiver or you know, trying to discount one from the other or kind of comparing a couple, you may want to watch it on your TV or something like that, because this is very small writing on phones, that's for certain. So maybe if you're that interested you may want to put YouTube up on the telly and have a good look at it. So that's it really. I'll say thanks for watching for this video. Hopefully you're going to find this interesting. These are the big hitters, the big power ones of the day. What were they called? A golden kind of age of hi-fi in the 70s, and this 77 around this time would have probably been the peak, getting towards the peak of the golden age as well. So that's it. Once again, I wish you all a Merry Christmas again and all that kind of stuff, and thanks for watching. Okay, the first receiver we're going to look at is the Beomaster 2400. It's got 40 watts a channel, and back then it retailed for £395. Now the distortion was very good, the noise was excellent, the half power bandwidth was excellent, the sound quality was very good, and the value for money was moderate. And he goes on to say, as an amazing remote control facility, many will find it tiresome after a while, but its general performance was quite good, has compatibility problems, and only recommended for the specialist applications. Moderate value for money. And the next one is the Beomaster 4400, 50 watts a channel, retailed for £395 as well. The distortion was excellent, noise was good, half power bandwidth was excellent, the sound quality was excellent, and the value for money was good. Going on to say, a very fine receiver having 6 preset FM stations, probably the finest product that Bang & Olufsen have yet made. Strongly recommended, but has some compatibility problems. Generally sounded excellent, a best buy. Next in the line is the Hitachi SR-903 with the power of 140 watts. Retailing at £335, with the distortion being average, the noise being fair, half power bandwidth being fair, the sound quality being average, and the value for money being reasonable. Going on to say, not really recommended since it has too many minor problems and the sound quality was rather average. Next we have the JVC JR S600L Mark II, 170 watts a channel here, costing £440 back then, with the distortion being excellent, the noise being very good, the half power bandwidth being excellent, the overall sound being good, and value for money being very good. Going on to say, as an excellent graphic equalizer and generally very useful facilities. It sounded and measured very well and measured very well and is strongly recommended as one of the best buys. That's the JVC JR S600 Mark II. Okay, next up is the Marantz 2230. Now I've took this from the 1976 magazine. I just thought I'd bring a couple of Marantzes into it. Now this was rated at 40 watts and just cost £215, so quite a bit less expensive than the others, but I thought I'd stick it in there anyway. Now I haven't got any bits about the sound and that, I'm just going to give a general description here. And it says, although this receiver is rather expensive, even at a discount, it offers excellent tuner quality with a good amplifier with some useful features. We like the tone controls and general presentation. This model can be strongly recommended. So this Marantz 2230 is strongly recommended, but bear the price there as well, £215, quite a bit cheaper than the others. So I put another Marantz here, the 2245 from the same magazine, 1976, like I say, just to bring a couple of Marantzes into the equation, shall we say. This was 60 watts a channel and £347, so a bit more on par money-wise. Again, got no sound qualities, etc., and distortion information to give you, but his summarisation of the amplifier was the amplifier gave a pretty good performance, although slight grittiness was suspected at high levels, together with a tendency perhaps of boominess at the low frequencies. The tuner section was quite remarkable, and this offers moderately good value for money. So that is the Marantz 2245. Okay, now we go on to the Pioneer SX850, 108 watts a channel into 8 ohms, £330 back then, with the distortion being very good, the noise being good, the half power bandwidth being fair, the overall sound quality being excellent, and value for money being reasonable. And going on to say, this fairly high-powered model is reasonably priced and generally measured and sounded well, but with a few problems in the tuner section, keeps it out from being a best buy. But as you can see, he does still recommend this unit. Okay, now we go on to the flagship, the SX-1250, and this particular receiver done 220 watts into 8 ohms, a massive 335 watts into 4 ohms, and cost £530, with the distortion being excellent, the noise being very good, the half power bandwidth being good, the sound being excellent, and value for money being very good. Goes on to say this is a superb but very expensive receiver, measured and sounded excellent, and has a very extensive facilities. A best buy even at this high price. Now we move on to the Rotel RX-1603, and this delivered 250 watts into 8 ohms, but just 240 watts into 4 ohms, and retail for £530, with the distortion being good, the noise being very good, the half power bandwidth being fair, the overall sound being very good, and value for money being good. And he goes on to say, a very high powered receiver at a high price, but measured and sounded very well, strongly recommended at a best buy. Next is a Sansui 8080, and this was rated at 95 watts a channel and cost £360, with the distortion being good, the noise being poor, the half power bandwidth being good, the overall sound being good, and value for money being good. Goes on to say, although this receiver is recommended since it is more competitively priced now, the Sansui 9090 clearly outperforms it. Nevertheless, quite good value for money and gets a recommended. Now we go on to the Sansui 9090. This gives 144 watts a channel into 8 ohms and retail for £435, with the distortion being excellent, the noise being poor, the half power bandwidth being excellent, the overall sound quality being excellent, and value for money being very good. Goes on to say, one of my favourite receivers, this one, measured very well and sounded excellent, but its price has increased somewhat in the last year, strongly recommended as a best buy. Now he goes also on to say this here, that this is his favourite receiver in this class, the Sansui 9090, which offers excellent facilities but surprisingly lacked one or two that were present in competitive models. However, extensive listing and laboratory tests showed the 9090 amplification section to be virtually beyond reproach, clearly sounding better than many famous high-powered amplifier designs which we use throughout the comparisons of these tests. So this was his favourite one out of the whole lot you're going to see here. This 1990 come out top. Now we move on to the Sansui QRX-9001, a 4-channel amplifier here from Sansui, 160 watts a channel into 8 ohms, but due to the speaker protection kicking in here, it just gives 53 watts a channel into 4 ohms for some reason in these tests. Gives the distortion as average, the noise is poor, the RF power bandwidth is excellent, the overall sound quality is excellent, and the value for money as reasonable. Don't forget this costs £730. Goes on to say the quadraphonic model can be used with CD4, SQ, QS, Matrix H and discrete quadraphonic sources. It performed generally very, very well indeed, but the tuner was a little disappointing. Quite a unique receiver which is recommended, but the price is still very high. Okay, on to the next one, a Setton RS-440, probably a receiver you're not going to see come up that often. I must admit I've never heard of it until today. Okay, so let's have a little look at this one. It's 85 watts a channel into 8 ohms, 123 watts a channel into 4 ohms, and would have cost you £360 back then. Got the distortion as excellent, the noise is fair, the RF bandwidth is good, the overall sound quality is very good, and the value for money being fair. Goes on to say, although this receiver is recommended, the tuner section was easier than average, and the price asked is too high, therefore not good value for money. So that's this Setton RS440. Okay, here's an interesting one, the Tandburg TR-2075 Mark II. Okay, let's have a little look at this. This is 100 watts a channel into 8 ohms, 150 watts a channel into 4 ohms, and would have cost you £450. The distortion was very good, the noise was very good, the RF power bandwidth was fair, the overall sound was very good, and the value for money was good. Goes on to say, gives excellent sound quality and has a superb tuner section. It's one of the best buys, particularly since Tandburg are improving the output protection circuits. It has very extensive facilities. Next up is a Toshiba SA-620, and this gives 70 watts a channel into 8 ohms, 105 watts a channel into 4 ohms, and would have cost £360. With the distortion being fair, the noise being poor, RF power bandwidth being fair, sound quality being average, and the value for money being very poor. Going on to say measuring and performing very similar to the 520, the SA-520. A recommendation is withheld, so not so good for that particular unit. Moving on to a Trio KR-9600, 88 watts a channel into 8 ohms, 120 into 4 ohms, retailing at £380, with the distortion being average, the noise being fair, the RF power bandwidth being excellent, the overall sound quality being good, and the value for money being fair. Going on to say, a recommendation is just withheld from this model since it has not very good value for the money, and the performance was outclassed by several other models around the same price. So that's the Trio KR-9600. Okay, the penultimate receiver is the Yamaha CR-1020. This had 100 watts a channel into 8 ohms, 149 watts a channel into 4 ohms, and retailed for £390. The distortion was excellent, the noise was very good, the RF power bandwidth was excellent, the sound quality was very good, and the value for money being fair. It goes on to say, unfortunately the 75 ohm FM area input circuitry measured rather poorly. Two samples were being checked and still the same. In other respects though, the performance was generally good, disappointing value for money, and not recommended. So that's the 1020 there by Yamaha. So let's go on to the last one. And it's the Yamaha CR-2020. Retailing at £495. This gives 136 watts a channel into 8 ohms, 212 watts a channel into 4 ohms, with the distortion being excellent, the noise being very good, the RF power bandwidth being excellent, the overall sound quality very, very good, and the value for money being good. Going on to say an excellent performance generally. This model has very extensive facilities, but although strongly recommended at the price, is a little high. You may well like this model very much, clearly one of the best. But don't forget, at the end of all this, he kind of went for the Sansui 9090. So that was the one that come out top in this particular receiver review from HiFi Choice back in 1977, with a little bit of 76 slung in with the Marantz there, just to put them amongst these other receivers. Okay, that's it. I'll say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.